Hey, what did one ocean say to the other? Give up? Well, nothing really, because by definition, oceans are just massive bodies of salt water that are incredibly important to life on Earth and the carbon cycle and everything like that. But they did wave. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that fin-tastic joke. And today we are going to talk about oceans. So I decided to put on a little bit of scuba gear so I could dive in a little deeper and start to learn what makes an ocean, but also what are those habitats like and what we can find here at Great Lakes Aquarium of how we make those habitats exactly what they need to be in order for those fish to survive. So, with that, let's get started. Oceans, like I mentioned, are massive bodies of salt water. So here in Duluth, we're right on the shores of one of the biggest bodies of water I've ever seen, and that's Lake Superior. But the biggest difference between Lake Superior and an ocean is the salt water. Salt water makes a huge difference. But then also, even though Lake Superior is really, really big and really fantastic and really wonderful and just all around far superior to most lakes around, I'm distracting myself with the beauty of Lake Superior. But oceans are huge. They're so big that they take up about like 71% of the Earth's surface. And to kind of give you an idea of what that's like, I have drawn right over here a little diagram. So like I said, those oceans, they cover about 71% of the Earth's surface. That's a lot. But more than that, they also cover about 90% of the biosphere. The biosphere is the area of the Earth that we are able to live. So it's kind of that zone that has all sorts of life. And in that 90% of the biosphere, that's also 97% of the Earth's water. So yeah, Lake Superior has a lot of water, but the ocean has a lot more. 97%. And so 97% of that water is salt water too. So going around and exploring these oceans, we can learn a lot about all sorts of life on Earth. But the real interesting part is, really, there's about 80% of the oceans that are unexplored, unmapped, and unobserved. We don't really know what's going on in all parts of the ocean, and that's a huge chunk of our Earth. We know more about the moon than we do about the bottoms of the oceans. To me, that seems really wild. But it also makes me really excited to find out what more we can learn in these oceans. So what I'm showing you right now is our predator exhibit here at Great Lakes Aquarium. It's a great example of a habitat for larger predatory species. Here in front, there's a zebra shark. That's Chewy. There's also some cow-nosed rays swimming around, black drugan, groupers. There's a white-spotted bamboo shark, all sorts of great animals that need habitats that have lots of open space. Other habitats can look even a little bit more different, a little more colorful, such as this truck lagoon exhibit. You see all sorts of colors, all sorts of corals, all sorts of fish, a wide variety. Now there are other habitats found all over in the world's oceans. It could be intertidal spaces, estuaries, mangroves, reefs like this. And then you think of it even further, deep oceans with animals that we barely get a chance to see. And all of those animals need salt water. So if we think about 97% of the Earth's water being salt, that's water we can't drink. We can't drink salt water. We can't live in salt water. But just how much salt is in those oceans? Well, I did some really deep diving and getting some information from really great sources like NOAA that have whole sections that just study the ocean. And some scientists estimate enough salt in the ocean, if we were to take all that out and we were to put it all over Earth's surface, it'd be like 500 feet thick. Now for me, that was a little hard to totally understand. How much is 500 feet? And that's about 40 stories of a building. So if you think of those large office buildings in cities and such, 40 stories. That's how much salt, if spread over the entire Earth, is in the world's oceans. That really just blows my mind. And then as we look into where all that salt comes from, it actually comes from rocks. So in here, there's not too many rocks, but surrounding all of those oceans are rocks everywhere. Rocks on the bottom of the ocean, rocks on the sides of the oceans, rocks falling into the oceans. And those rocks are full of minerals. So when those rocks start to erode away, those minerals can come loose, and ions such as sodium and chloride, almost forgot the word there, kind of floundered on that, but those ions get into the water, and then we start to see that salt water. In the ocean, it is said that there is probably about 35 parts per thousand of salt. Now, parts per thousand means that 35 of 1,000, so if there were 1,000 of weight of the ocean, 35 of that would be salt. That's still a little murky for my mind to totally put together, but roughly 3.5% of the weight would be salt. Now here at Great Lakes Aquarium, even though we're on the shores of really big bodies of water, we do not have too much salt water, but we still have to, I'm going to turn you around here again, we still have to create these habitats for these animals. It was like a shipwreck, like my phone sunk to the depths of this exhibit. Whoa. Are we back? Technical difficulties. Here we are again. Oh man. Kind of think about being on a ship somewhere and just dropping your phone into the ocean. I feel like that's just what happened. Huh. Good thing I didn't drop it into actual salt water. I think it would have ruined my phone. But I do have some salt here. We're gonna go down to it. This is salt. This is the salt we use all the time here at Great Lakes Aquarium. This salt is put into big cylinders with dechlorinated water and then mixed for about a half a day to a day to make sure all the salt is dissolved. So when this salt goes in, we are able to test that salt using refractors, which kind of gives us a glimpse into what the salinity is of the water, and we want to make sure that we're matching it to what those animals need. So like I said, the oceans are about 35 parts per thousand. Here at the aquarium, we strive to get near that as well. So 32 to 35 parts per thousand is ideal for a lot of the animals that live here. Now, each of these boxes can be mixed into about 150 gallons of water, which is quite a lot. And we go through one flat of these boxes every 3 weeks. So it's roughly about 3,000 pounds of salt per 3 weeks here at the aquarium. And that's constantly getting mixed in and then piped up and pumped into these exhibits here. So salt water, that's the first thing we need to make a really great habitat for these animals. The next thing that we're gonna need is places for the animals to do what they need to do. All these animals are a little bit different. So we're gonna go back to Truck Lagoon. And you'll notice some of the fish need space to swim around. Others like to go in near the corals or to rest on some of the corals. Others will use those corals to camouflage. Oh, hey. Some will hide in the back and in the dark and wait for their food. So we want to make sure that we have the appropriate things. This exhibit is based off a shipwreck, and shipwrecks can actually make some amazing habitats for fish. It allows for a lot of those corals to start growing, gives them a nice base. Obviously we don't want ships in the ocean, but if they go down, and as long as there's not bad chemicals or toxins leaking into the water, like I said, they can create some really interesting habitats. So here at the aquarium, we build those habitats to fit all of the needs of the fish. Give you a little bit of a bigger view here of all those fish. We also want to make sure that we're allowing for different ways for the animals to eat. Some are predators, some need meat, some need vegetables or plants. So I'm going to go on behind the scenes and I'm going to show you what some of that looks like as well. So here we go. You can kind of see what we were looking at before, just a different angle. So some of these fish rely on these items here. Oh, hey Norbert. He's coming to check us out. Norbert's an example of an animal that has gone through target training. So in this exhibit, Norbert, who's a porcupine pufferfish, needs, because these fish have beaks on them. So they need to be able to crunch down on something to help with those beaks. So Norbert is familiar with people coming back here and giving some crab leg or some shrimp so you can crunch down on that. So that's one way that we're making sure to feed these animals what they need. Really unique. This is a floating ball. You gonna show us, Norbert? Thanks. And then there is a chain, you can see on this one, a chain going down to the bottom. On those chains are clips. And that's a great place to clip things like oranges. This is one that's been eaten away. Or some kale, other leafy greens for those vegetarians in the exhibit. Other fish will often swim and catch their food. So there are pellets that we can throw on in here, kind of like your exhibits at home. If you have any aquariums at home, you might sprinkle some food so you can see leftover food right here that can go in for those fish. So we're trying to meet the needs of all the different fish that would call this habitat home. Give you some more view. Ooh, this is a really cool fish swimming away from us. That's actually the state fish of Hawaii, a huma huma triggerfish. Give you a view. There's also some nice dark spots in the back here for some of those fish who prefer those darker habitats. Now, like I said, these oceans, it's also super important for the carbon cycle. Oceans are a great place for carbon to come out of the atmosphere and stay. But we also want to make sure there's not so much carbon in our atmosphere that it's going into the water and creating acidic habitats for animals. Oftentimes we see that with corals and some harm that can happen there. And then another major way that oceans are important on the Earth is they have a lot to do with climate and weather patterns. Living here on the shores of Lake Superior, we often see a lot of things that the lake affects with our weather. The oceans do that on an even greater scale. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed diving into these oceans with me and learning about this really fantastic habitat. Have all these friends coming up to say hello. Again, we do daily videos on weekdays here at 1 o'clock. We're happy to have you join us. And if you want to support us further, I put a link in the bio for you to follow along and learn more about ways to help Great Lakes Aquarium during this quarantine. We appreciate all the support we get from our community and our friends, our families, everyone. We really could not do what we do and provide the care we care for these animals without all of your help. So thank you again, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.